and welcome to the March 2025 Microsoft Product Licensing Term update from the Software Asset Management practice here at version 1. How is everyone doing today?
Good, thank you.
Great, thanks.
Great. So another month, another set of updates. This month saw a number of updates and some interesting observations around Microsoft's license guides as well. I'll kick things off and look at all things privacy or security and privacy related. So lots of exciting stuff on that particular area as usual. So first up is around Dynamics 365 Contact Center. So for those who are not familiar with it, Dynamics 365 Contact Center is it's like a Copilot first cloud-based solution, and it's designed to help enhance customer service experiences. So as you can guess, this month we see Microsoft have added that to their security and privacy terms. Also within the privacy and security terms this month, we saw the addition of Copilot Chat being added to the list of EU boundary services. So again, if you've been living under a rock for the last couple of years, Microsoft's EU boundary services refer to Microsoft's commitment to store and process customer data and personal data from its core cloud services, either within the European Union and the European Free Trade Association, or EFTA countries. Get a bit tongue-tied there. There was also some change around universal license terms for online services. So there was an updated acceptable use policy terms, and this relates primarily to all things cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency mining. So prior to March 2025, Microsoft was somewhat lenient in terms of the usage of online services for cryptocurrency mining. And so there was a stipulation in the online service terms that stated if you had prior written approval from Microsoft, you could use it in that context. Whereas in March, we're seeing a complete change in direction. So cryptocurrency mining is now completely prohibited as per the current product terms, which is a lot more stricter than what was previously in place. Also, there was an update around Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat data handling headline that was updated to Microsoft 365 Copilot and Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat data handling to enable data handling terms for both Copilot and Copilot Chat. So a bit of a word salad there. So just to clarify, Microsoft products allow users to share data, including things like customer data, with other Microsoft products. So for example, if you share data between Microsoft products, the data is handled according to the terms of the receiving product, and obviously each product will have its own rules for how data is managed. So an example of this is, say for example, if you use Bing through Copilot, your data stays private. It isn't used for things like ads or AI training, and it's protected by Microsoft security policies there. So that's all I looked at this month. So all things security and privacy related. So I'll hand it over to Niamh if you want to go through any interesting observations from your side.
Sure. So I had a look at the Microsoft update for Azure, where they said that they've extended Azure Local to include smaller, more affordable devices than traditional servers. And there's another part as well, but basically I'll discuss that first. So the first part of the update outlines Microsoft Azure Local. Now supports a smaller class of kind of affordable device and compared to traditional servers. So this is really to make Azure Local more accessible for various like edge scenarios where smaller hardware can be more practical and more cost effective, like such as like edge computing, where you've got maybe small retail stores that can use these devices to like run local applications like inventory management systems without having to need like large or kind of expensive servers, or also like in remote locations, like maybe agricultural sites or remote offices where they can install or deploy smaller devices to process, their own data kind of locally, and again reducing that need for constant like internet connectivity. So I guess like these devices, they're part of a new hardware class. They've got like reduced kind of requirements. They've got fewer physical cores and less memory, and they'd be kind of suitable for deployments with like 1 to maybe 3 machines. So they're really kind of ideal for smaller scale operations. Now, the second part of the update, where Microsoft say they've added an exception to commitment on location of data processing for optional model fine-tuning feature in Azure OpenAI service. So this is an exception that's been added to the commitment on the location of data processing for the optional model fine-tuning feature in Azure OpenAI service. It means that while Azure generally commits to processing data within specific geographic locations, the exception allows for some flexibility when using the fine-tuning feature. And there can be some examples there, like where you've got a multinational company using Azure OpenAI service for fine-tuning models. They might have data processed in different regions to optimize performance, and therefore like it needs compliance with local regulations, and then also like data residency requirements. So if a specific region has stringent kind of data residency requirements, then the exception allows Azure to process data in a compliant manner while still providing the fine-tuning service. Now, this exception applies only to the fine-tuning feature, so that any other kind of data processing commitments, they remain unchanged. And the update, like, it helps in maintaining compliance with various international data protection laws while still leveraging like the full capabilities of Azure OpenAI service. So that was kind of a good one to look at this month.
Very good. William, anything good from your side?
Yeah, quite interesting actually. So they've added Microsoft 365 Business Premium to the prerequisite table for E5 security add-on. Now, prerequisite tables are essentially the base product that you need before you can have an add-on. And so for this, what it does is bring a whole set of new security products that could be added to Microsoft 365 Business Premium under the E5 security add-on, including things like Entra ID Plan 2, Defender for Identity, Defender for Endpoint Plan 2, Defender for Office 365 Plan 2, and Defender for Cloud Apps. So what that means is, so Business Premium has a limit of 300 licenses per customer. So it's ideal for small organizations, and they get a whole plethora of products within that Business Premium suite, including Windows, desktop upgrade, apps for business, OneDrive, SharePoint, enterprise mobility and security suite, all for less than sort of £20 a month. To step up in the security products, previously they would have had to have gone to an enterprise SKU. So you're looking at sort of £30, £40, £50 per user, but E5 security add-on is about £12 each. So well, you get all that good base stuff with the Business Premium, and then the E5 security really does top it up with all the good security products. And I think that's partly because of Copilot, possibly with all the governance and controls over data, that really the E5 security add-on is probably more suited for Copilot use across an organization. So, but it's good. It's a good step forward for smaller organizations, I think.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So that's, before we wrap things up, there was some kind of recent changes to Microsoft's collection of license guides. I don't know, Niamh or William, is there anything that you guys wanted to flag from those new guides that was of interest?
Yeah, so new, well, technically, so February 2025, they brought out the re-imaging rights guide, which looks like a rehash of the old guide because it refers to Windows 8.1 and Windows 2012, but I suppose it just brings it back to the fore about what you can do with media and when you can use it to create a gold image, for example, when you want to roll out desktop images across the environment.
It's probably a mistake, I'd say.
It could actually probably just be a mistake.
The real one is languishing in someone's desktop folder somewhere.
I know, and on their to-do list. But I suppose it just reinforces the fact that if you've got an OEM machine, buy it from a store with Windows 10 installed already, you can't then use that media disk to go and put it onto another machine. You need a proper open or enterprise or volume type license SKU, you know, or you need to buy a fully boxed product, and make sure that you've got the underlying license for each machine that you're deploying it to. So nothing's changed. I don't think, just don't do it unless you're allowed to.
I think it's like it's a risk that's probably not as prevalent that was around, like say 10 or 15, gosh, if I even said like 15 years ago. And re-imaging was a big issue for customers during license compliance audits, particularly where they were buying the cheaper OEM Office product and using a volume media image to
putting it on a server.
The guide still refers to CDs and DVD media. So
I'd say that's an upload of the wrong, like the wrong version.
Yeah. So we might come back to that one.
I had a look at the step up licensing briefs, because this actually was kind of relevant to a customer there in the last 6 months, a year, and just to kind of see, was there anything different there. And look, the same, nothing has changed really for step ups on premise software. You still need to have active software assurance on the qualifying base license, and for both step ups actually, for on premise and online services subscriptions, you must purchase like the step up within the same kind of license agreement or enrollment, and you can step up to like a higher online service from a qualifying lower plan, like at any time in, let's say, an enterprise agreement, so in between kind of anniversaries and so on, not just on at renewal or anniversaries. And I thought what was relevant actually to the customer was, from kind of a practical level, they did include like a FAQ question about, now that was relating to kind of stepping up from E3 to E5. Would you have to reassign the license to kind of a user? They say no. And I know in the customer example that I had, before they purchased their step ups, they were asking for an F3, what would the practical steps with them stepping up F3 users to E3 and so on. And I don't think it was an issue in the end. So I know that there was quite a few actually, wasn't there, in terms of briefs. I just had a look at kind of the core CAL and enterprise CAL suites, because really, I guess, as Microsoft moves more towards kind of hybrid, cloud and online, you kind of wonder really, seeing as, and it was interesting going into the product terms themselves, and they have various tables with all the on-premise rights that are included with the various, be it like an E1, which is a lot more limited, or an E3 or an E5 or an F3 and so on, that really at some point are they going to simplify licensing and just include, the on-premise rights as part of like, a subscription license and that. But that's probably, that's not really in near future, I'd imagine.
So on that one, I had a brief look at the licensing guide for Office LTSC, so Office Long-Term Servicing Channel, which incorporates Office Standard or Office Pro Plus and Mac. So typically organizations, there's not too many organizations will purchase Office on this basis now, given the prevalence of Microsoft 365 and organizations licensing cloud-based alternatives. But in certain heavily regulated scenarios, or certain scenarios where business apps that are included with Microsoft 365 don't work from perhaps a regulatory or from a technical perspective, or perhaps there's some licensing nuance there that drives the need to have a more traditional way of licensing Microsoft Office. It's worth checking out the Office LTSC guide just to get a handle in terms of the licensing terms associated with how Office is licensed in that particular scenario. Obviously the focus is very much on device-based licensing, and as a consequence of that, there's a whole host of other limitations and nuances there that you might want to just familiarize yourself with. But I would say, very much kind of focused on very niche scenarios now, and also, perhaps maybe where you might have some customers who have, failed to jump on that cloud journey and are still using Office in a very much a kind of a traditional sense in the on-premise world, and using on-premise alternatives to various different messaging collaboration services from Microsoft. So I think that pretty much wraps things up for this month. As always, we'll produce a supporting blog that covers off and distills down some of the key licensing updates from today's session. If you ever have any questions relating to Microsoft licensing, Microsoft technology, or licensing related to any other third-party vendors, please feel free to reach out to us here at the Software Asset Management Practice at Version 1. We'd be delighted to handle any questions or queries you might have. So until next week, Niamh, William, thanks again for your input, and see you then.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.